Greetings to the anointed. The guy who stopped talking is the most dangerous person in the room, not the one who yells. It's psychology, not just poetry. According to studies, when someone abruptly stops talking after being there all the time, it makes everyone around them curious and on high alert. The human brain is designed to recognize behavioral changes, and nothing makes people more uneasy than a change they are unable to explain, particularly if it originates from you. You've also been too silent recently. Not the quiet "I'm busy" kind. Not the stillness of "I'm tired." It's a stillness that resembles the pre-storm atmosphere. It's quiet outside, but lightning is developing someplace. The fact that being silent is not a sign of weakness. It's a weapon. People who used to be brave enough to test you are now finding they don't know where you stand or what you're planning next since you've stopped announcing your actions. And they're being consumed by that mystery. It's amusing. Some of them assumed that your silence indicated that you were backing off, but they are beginning to believe that it actually implies something else. You've finished alerting others before acting. First of all, they no longer felt in control because of you. Pulling back meant more than simply leaving the conversation. Their whole stage was taken away by you. They worked under the guise of having some control over you for a long time. They thought they could foresee you, influence you, or even dictate your decisions as long as you were within their grasp. They were given a false sense of significance and control over your environment because of your presence. However, the instant you stopped talking, you denied them access, which was what they needed most. Control is access, and only when someone can reach into your area and rearrange things can you have control. They were skilled at reading your emotions simply by observing you, pushing your buttons, and luring you into a reaction. However, they are now left in the dark since they have nothing to read, nothing to prod, and nothing to trigger. And they're going wild from guessing. They are being forced to sit with themselves because of your absence, which is something they weren't prepared for. They can no longer use you as a diversion from their own shortcomings. They are unable to blame you, fabricate stories, or keep you under observation. They are left looking at a blank wall where their control formerly was, without your presence to exert influence. This is where they get quite uneasy. They are beginning to see themselves reflected on that wall. Individuals like that rely on your responses to feel strong. They lose their favorite weapon when you take it away from them. If you're not even in the arena, they can't boost their self-esteem by defeating you. Because it reveals the truth. Your silence turned into a mirror they were unable to look into. Only when you cooperated did they feel powerful. They're now confronting a reality they never wanted to. They never actually had the control they believed they did. You made it possible for it to exist. And as you pulled out, everything fell apart like a house of cards. They are uneasy about your quiet because of this. It is more than simply the lack of sound. It's the lack of their delusion of authority. And they realize they have nothing left to control you once that illusion is gone. Second, you ceased providing the lifeline for their ego. Once you gave them attention, they flourished. Whether it was admiration, worry, or even annoyance, every response you gave fueled their ego. They felt validated when you showed concern for them. They knew they had the ability to influence you, so even when you were upset, they felt significant. Whether the energy you sent was positive or negative made no difference. They felt important because it was theirs, and that was what mattered to them. They lost that lifeline the day you stopped talking. You ceased your self-explanation. You ceased protecting yourselves. You ceased to ensure that they were aware of your feelings. It was no coincidence. It was a decision. And that decision disconnected them from the constant flow of energy they had unquestioningly become accustomed to receiving from you. For them, the current situation is straightforward but disastrous. They must face the emptiness they have been avoiding without your vitality to rely on. Your answers have been used as evidence that they were important and that you still saw value in them. They're having a hard time finding that sense of significance elsewhere now that you've taken it away. Even worse, they have no idea how to make it for themselves. Your silence is more than simply a lack of communication. It's publicity. It reveals how reliant they were on you for approval. It reveals how little emotional capital they have amassed. It reveals that your willingness to participate was all the power they believe they have. Instead of genuinely wanting to fight, they can try to provoke you once again because they are yearning for the rush of importance your attention provides. To pique your interest, they may push limits, make subtle barbs, or bring up previous grievances. However, they are left to retain their own emptiness when you don't bite. The change takes place here. If you feel the abundance of divine love in your heart, now is the time to share it. You can help spread God's blessings by clicking the Super Thanks button on YouTube and contributing $20 or more. This divine gift will touch not only your life, but also the souls of many others through this platform. Each of you has a sacred place in God's great design, and your generosity will be the fruit of our prayers. Take action now. Share your blessings to exalt His kingdom, for you were created to do even greater things in God's loving hands. May God bless you. Whether they like it or not, they are learning that your energy is not a resource that they can use anytime they feel inadequate. Cutting off the supply makes them realize that you are not theirs to use, and they cannot take that knowledge away from you. Third, their guilt is being amplified by your silence. You eliminated the sound that enabled them to disregard their own behavior when you ceased answering. They could ignore what they had done and concentrate on you as long as you were speaking, justifying yourself, elaborating, or responding. Whether your remarks were gentle or forceful, they provided them something to cling to, something to deny, distort, or use as a pretext to avoid facing themselves. However, they have nothing to deflect anymore. The truth is all that's left, and it's getting closer to them every day. Being silent means not just not talking, but also not being distracted. Their thoughts are more loud than ever when your voice is not heard. The memories of their words, decisions, and treatment of you aren't vanishing as they had anticipated. Rather of being drowned out by any competing noise, they are playing back in their minds. And despite their best efforts, those ideas continue to come up. They don't always have conscious guilt. It can occasionally manifest as annoyance at you for not participating. Because it's simpler to do that than to acknowledge that they caused the situation, they may attempt to portray you as the issue to others. Beneath all of that, however, is an increasing recognition that their behavior is linked to your absence. And they can't seem to get rid of that uneasy awareness. They are at risk from this type of silence as it forces them to confront themselves in ways they never intended. When you're not even talking, they can't tell themselves that you're being theatrical or overreacting. When you've given them nothing to fight over, they can't accuse you of creating a quarrel. There's just one answer left, and it's the one they don't want to acknowledge. That awareness weighs more heavily the longer the quiet lasts. The fact that you're not attempting to instill guilt in them is what worries them the most. You're not trying to prove your point, get an apology, or find closure. You are not the source of the weight people experience. It originates within of them. When they think of you, they will always feel that type of guilt, the kind that never goes away. Fourth, they're discovering that you don't share the same frequency. They're starting to realize painfully that you're no longer functioning on the same frequency. They could have made a living in the past by entangling you in their maelstrom, prodding you till you lost it, luring you into disputes, and making a mess simply to watch you scurry. They were at ease there. They lived in chaos. Therefore, they learned how to prevail there. However, you have now completely left that area. You avoid being caught up in their storms. They're attempting to get you to play games that you don't play. You now know how to maintain your composure. Regardless of how loud they become, your silence is not a haven. You're not hiding, fleeing, or giving up. It's command. You've decided not to put your energy in areas where it can't flourish. And their whole strategy is upset by that decision. They lose their influence when they are unable to elicit a response. Their strategies fail if you aren't emotionally invested in them. They have nothing to feed on and nothing to ride in a chain reaction. They seem to be tossing flames into the sea. You're untouchable now. They find this disturbing as it implies that they can no longer read you. Those who profit from manipulating emotions rely on consistency. They must understand that you will react a specific manner if they press a particular button. However, you abruptly modified the rules of the game. You don't respond. You do the math. And the reason that worries them the most is because calculation implies foresight. It indicates that you are outwitting them completely rather than only surviving their attacks. You can't be reached using their standard techniques if you're operating at a different frequency. The taunts, rumors, and unexpected outbursts no longer affect you in the same manner. You are not drawn into their world of snap judgments and hasty behaviors. You've moved into an area where your movements are purposeful, methodical, and nearly imperceptible until they're finished. The difference between someone who is still playing defense and someone who has already won is that type of discipline. And they are aware that you are no longer a simple target. Even the venue is different for you. You've already moved out of range, so they may continue to fling emotional blows all they want. It strikes them at that point. You're not a responder, you're a strategist. And the finale is always in the hands of strategists. Fifth, you've abruptly changed the nature of the battlefield. Though they were prepared for it their way, they were prepared for a struggle. They had everything they needed, including a stage, debates they could win by using deceptive language, rumors they could disseminate to influence others, and years of refined manipulation techniques. They were native to this area. They were well-versed in every aspect of it, every effective tactic, and every perspective from which they could make you appear weak and themselves powerful. They believed that if a conflict arose, it would take place in the territory they possessed. But you didn't make them feel that way. They constructed you a stage, but you never showed up. They had the upper hand, but you didn't meet them there. You moved the whole battle to a different location where they lacked support, power, and the capacity to manipulate the results. And you did it out of the blue. The thing that truly confuses them is that they may have attempted to adjust if they had been aware that you were going to modify the rules. However, you failed to give them time to adapt. They were getting ready to drag you into their world one day, and then you were already out of it. They're still swinging and moving in the same ways, but now they're striking nothing. Dear brothers and sisters, may God's peace be with you today. I am here to remind you of a profound truth. Our existence is grounded in God's divine plan, unshaken by the world's fleeting concerns. As the Holy Bible says, everything done in faith will be rewarded by God's abundant blessings. Luke 6 verse 38, like that mighty oak tree, our roots are deeply anchored in God's universal truth. Every step we take, every stance we hold is secured by His power. And now, you have the opportunity to be a part of this blessing. When you click this Super Thanks button and make a $100 donation, this act will return to you 100-fold. The opponent they are shadow boxing is no longer physically present in the room. This is what truly aggravates them. You didn't just leave. You outgrown the game as a whole. It's not that you were afraid or ill-prepared and hence chose not to fight. You knew the combat itself was beneath you, therefore you declined to fight. You realized it wouldn't be a triumph if you won in their area. It would just serve as evidence that they are still capable of bringing you down to their level. They are forced into a position they are not accustomed to when the battlefield is redefined. Helpless. They are unable to disparage you in a place where you do not exist. When you deny them access to your emotions, they are unable to control them. Since you're not even playing the same game, they can't claim victory. They know deep down that you've already won by not fighting where they wanted you to. And the more they recognize this, the more irritated they get. They're on the verge of becoming irrelevant at number 6. You accomplished more than just establishing distance when you ceased to interact. The assurance that they were still important to you was the one thing they relied on the most, which you took away. They were constantly reminded that they were still an important part of your life by every exchange of words, every response, and every back and forth you had in the past. They remained at the center of your emotional world even if the interactions were heated and based on conflict. And losing that type of attention is like losing air to someone who feeds on it. The change was swift. They were relegated to background noise after being certain they were a major player in your tale one day. Because it makes people face reality, that type of fall is cruel. Your life didn't depend on them as much as they thought. Additionally, the silence exacerbates the situation since there is no dramatic farewell, no emotional resolution, and no opportunity for them to feel as though they have had the final say. Nothing at all. For most people, irrelevance comes gradually, but for them, it strikes like a rock wall. Being important in your life has been the foundation of their identity, and they are unsure of their place in the world without that position. Despite their best efforts to convince themselves otherwise, their behavior will betray them. Small attempts to entice you back, nuanced jabs, or even boisterous performances intended to regain your interest. But despite their best efforts, they are unable to deny the reality. Your own tranquility has taken their place, not someone else's. The fact that you didn't even need to mention this change is what hurts the most. You didn't sit them down and tell them they weren't essential anymore. You just quit putting effort into them. Because it communicates to them without using words that you no longer consider them to be a part of your life. That silent withdrawal of your focus is more scathing than any conflict could be. Your lack of concern is the final blow to someone who used to profit off your reactions. It's not rage. It's not resentment. It isn't anything. and the coldest thing you could have offered them is nothing. They now have to deal with the fact that they are no longer the focus of your attention, but rather just another name from your past. Seventh, your development is taking place behind their backs. They once thought they understood you. They believed they could follow your development, forecast your actions, and monitor your progress. They felt comfortable, even superior, because of that mindset. However, you've now relocated such that their line of sight is no longer in any way. What you're doing is invisible to them. They are unable to gauge your current location and are clueless about your future. For someone who used to feel in charge of the story, that kind of uncertainty is unnerving. It's more than simply your silence that's bothering them. It's because the silence has been fruitful. You've been moving around. You've been investing in things they're unaware of, leveling up without making your every move public, and improving yourself in ways they can't see. They perceive you as having entered a secret realm that is inaccessible to them. Because they are unable to control, prevent, or prepare for it. People are afraid of things they cannot monitor. But they are beginning to connect the dots. Tiny clues appear, minor adjustments to your mannerisms, flashes of renewed self-assurance, and signs of development that are difficult to fully describe. When you respond to situations with a level of composure they have never witnessed before, or when you speak differently or carry yourself differently, they notice it. It lets them know that you've been changing in ways that go well beyond appearances. The fact that they cannot reverse this growth is a dangerous reality for them. What they cannot see, they cannot sabotage. Opportunities they are unaware of cannot be blocked. Additionally, they are unable to get ready for a new side of you. This type of evolution is so potent because of this. In the greatest manner conceivable, you've changed into an unpredictable person. Every day you move further forward without their notice. You deepen the distance between where you are and where they expected you'd be. And the more that disparity increases, the more helpless they feel. It's one thing to be out of the loop. It's another to know the person you misjudged is developing something beyond your reach. Your development outside their radar isn't simply progress. It's a stealthy revolution. And when it eventually becomes evident, it will be much too late for them to catch up. Number 8. You're no longer a predictable character in their narrative. Now is the perfect time to click the super thanks button on YouTube and share God's blessings. You can contribute to his plan and become a part of this divine mission with a donation of $100 or more. Every gift reflects God's generosity, and I believe it will return to you multiplied beyond your expectations. Remember, his protection and blessings are with you in every step you take and every donation you make. You become part of his divine plan. You are a powerful, radiant being, unshakable like his mighty rock. Witness God's miracles, feel the fruits of your generosity in your soul, and illuminate the world with this confidence and courage. Be blessed, and may the Lord's light guide your way. They used to know just how to get to you. They had a mental playbook with every one of your reactions noted. What you'd say if they provoked you, how you'd behave if they gave you the silent treatment, the way you'd rush to defend yourself if they spread a falsehood. They didn't only know the lines. They wrote the script. And as long as you did your role, they felt in charge. However, something changed. You gave up playing. You ceased providing them with the responses they had practiced. The whole plotline they were depending on was broken by your silence. Without a script, they are now standing there, uncertain of what will happen next. Because it demonstrates to them how much they relied on your predictability, that uncertainty is wearing them down. For manipulators, predictability is their lifeblood. They may prepare their actions ahead of time if they know exactly how you'll react. They have the ability to set traps that they know you will enter. Your words can be twisted into pre-made forms by them. For them, however, uncertainty is a perilous place. It implies they are unable to plan. It implies that they are unable to promise a result. They also feel vulnerable when they have little influence over the result. They now hesitate whenever they try something. They are unsure if you would dismiss it, refute it, or break it down in a manner they have never seen before. They are weakened by such indecision. It causes people to doubt their own strategies, second-guess themselves, and refrain from attacking when they would otherwise do so mindlessly. And you become even more powerful in that doubt. They're beginning to understand that you're purposeful rather than merely erratic. In the present, you are making a choice rather than reacting. And everything is altered by that distinction. It indicates that they are no longer able to read you freely. They are unable to ensnare you in cycles from which you have already broken free. It implies that they no longer even comprehend the game they once believed they were winning. Being unpredictable does not mean being erratic. It all comes down to being so cunning that no one can predict your next move until it has already been made. You are currently there. You have entirely removed yourself from their script, and their whole performance is deteriorating if you don't play the portion they wrote. You've transformed their interest into an obsession. Number 9. They could easily keep an eye on you while you were available. A little discussion here, a look at your facial expressions there, and perhaps a few oblique inquiries to others in your immediate vicinity. Simple. They always had just enough knowledge to give you the impression that they were aware of your life's events. However, you created a gap when you blocked that access. It was only curiosity at first. They wanted to know your plans, your feelings, and what you were doing. Curiosity, however, dislikes being ignored. It quickly began to develop into something else. Obsession. They are actually looking now rather than only speculating. What you don't say is more important to them than what you say. They look for clues in little things, like a change in your attire, a subtly altered tone, or even the people you spend time with. They search for hints concealed in objects that have nothing to do with them, trying to piece out your life story without you having to tell them. People are forced to fill in the blanks on their own when access is blocked off. Furthermore, the human imagination has a propensity of fabricating tales that are far more spectacular than reality. In their imagination, you're suddenly meeting powerful people, making major moves, and creating something enormous behind the scenes. Every unknown becomes a potential discovery. They fantasize more when they don't know. They also need to know more for sure the more they fantasize. At this point, it becomes problematic for them. It is not passive to be obsessed. It is an operation. They begin to inquire about you in indirect ways, keep an eye on you remotely, and maybe even check your internet activity. You've turned into a problem they're determined to solve, even if they can't publicly acknowledge it. And the mystery seems to get larger every day you keep knowledge from others. They are blind to the fact that you now control them through this preoccupation. They are devoting mental and emotional energy to pursuing you even though you are not pursuing them. Their curiosity is getting stronger every day, even if you're not fostering it. They desire to be in charge of your attention. Now, though, you've become their focus of attention without even trying. The most annoying thing for them is that they have no idea whether or when they will receive the answers they want. 10th, they're coming to the realization that your power never came from them. They reassured themselves for a long time that they were the cause of your identity development. They persuaded themselves that you wouldn't have discovered your path if it weren't for their advice, their influence, or even their criticism. Perhaps they even took silent credit for your development and talked about you to others as though they had created you. It was a tactic to make themselves look more important while quietly maintaining your dependence on them. The flaws in that tale are becoming apparent, though, now that you have taken a step back and stopped talking. Even without them in the picture, you're still making progress, leveling up, and figuring out how to win. That was the unexpected part. Your success without them feels like a clear contradiction of their story if they really thought they were your strength. It is evidence that they were never the foundation they believed themselves to be. The fact that your progress now feels even more genuine is terrible for them. Every accomplishment you make, even without their obvious assistance, is evidence of your own tenacity and willpower. They are no longer able to claim the credit. They are also being weakened by their lack of control over the narrative. They are being forced to acknowledge that their contribution to your life was never as significant as they would want to think. Even more disturbing is your calm assent, which emphasizes how much of your advancement occurred in spite of them rather than as a result of them. All the times they questioned you, all the ways they undervalued you, and all the covert or overt efforts to prevent you from moving further. Instead of being the foundation you stood on, those are now a part of the backstory you overcome. And that reality is now evident in your actions, your self-assurance, and the way you conduct yourself. At this point, their uneasiness becomes more profound. Resentment. They feel exposed rather than merely excluded. The fact they didn't want to acknowledge is shown by your accomplishment without their assistance. You've always created yourself. Even though their presence was noisy, your strength never came from them. It was background noise at best. And the power you've always possessed is more apparent than ever now that you've subdued it. 11. You're inaccessible because of your energy shift. You are no longer only physically absent from their environment. It's vivacious. And they find that even more disturbing. You're not just maintaining your distance, ignoring messages, or avoiding calls. They can't imitate, deceive, or get around you since you've moved into a frequency that renders you inaccessible. You seem to have entered a room that they cannot see, a world they can feel but cannot go inside. And they're going crazy about it. They believe they understood how to get back into your life, remind you of past experiences, tug on a few emotional threads, or rely on familiar dynamics to draw you back in. But now that you've done more than just create limits, such strategies are ineffective. Your whole energy architecture has been altered. You're not just more difficult to get to. You are using an entirely other channel. Ego or resentment are not the foundations of this barrier. Clarity is the source of it. You've healed, matured, and seen too much to let the old energies disturb your tranquility. And even though you may have previously kept a door open, you now realize that not everyone deserves access to you, even if they did have it in the past. Thus, there is no entrance point at all. Now they sense the weighty, silent reality. They cannot use charm or talk their way out of having their clearance withdrawn. Spiritual security is this. A lock that they don't know the code for has been installed by your spirit. It's not about appearances, so no amount of claiming they've changed will get them in. It has to do with vibration, and there's no longer matches. The fact that they can sense the difference is what they find intolerable. Without you speaking, they are able to detect the wall. They sense the rejection without you having to tell them. It's not a wall of rage, either. It's an ascension wall. You've risen above their sphere of influence. With every day that goes by, they are left on the outside, watching you get farther away. Perhaps they'll attempt to label it arrogance. In their hearts, they know the truth. Even if they may convince themselves, you're acting different. You didn't just leave. You went above. And there's no turning back once someone reaches that level. They are unable to touch you, yet they can still see you. They can't get in touch with you, but they can still remember you. You're no longer reachable. And nothing you ever say will ever be as loud as the stillness of that fact. 12. They are facing the dread that you have irrevocably moved on. They may have believed it was a passing phase, mood, or cooling off time before everything went back to normal when you drew back. However, the weight of the stillness changes as the days turn into weeks and the weeks into months. They no longer seem to be able to bridge the gap with a lighthearted remark or an unsincere apology. While they're still on the same page, it seems definitive, like a chapter you've already read. The prospect of losing your time, your thoughts, and your emotional space forever is alarming to those who used to have unfettered access to them. In their lives, you were more than simply a person. You served as a resource. When it was convenient for them, they may turn to you for approval, attention, amusement, or even emotional support. They might never be able to replenish that supply if they lose it. And that fact is quickly becoming apparent. There's more to the silence than a lack of dialogue. It makes it clear that you've moved on in ways that they can't reverse. It's not that you despise them or even think about them all the time. It is because they are no longer in the orbit in which you now function. They are no longer in the center. And since you are operating at a level that no longer needs their permission or input, they are unable to bring you back in. The feeling that the previous iteration of you is no longer there is what disturbs them the most. There is no longer a person they could control, guilt trip, or emotionally influence. And if that's the case, the connection is formally finished, at least in the manner they used to dominate. Losing someone like that hurts more than just pride, because it makes them realize they were never as important to you as they thought they were. It damages the ego. They can't wait out the stillness much longer. It is not a passing storm. They're beginning to understand that the climate is to blame. Furthermore, it's not merely an ending in their imagination if the door you've closed is actually locked. It's an exile. They know deep down that you're not the one losing here, and that knowledge alone makes them restless. Indeed, they are. 13. Without a word, you're allowing the truth to reveal them. You took your time defending yourself. You didn't waste time and effort attempting to prove your innocence, gather witnesses, or launch a campaign. Anybody who was supposed to see the truth would, you knew. Furthermore, it wasn't worth persuading someone who was determined to misunderstand you in the first place. You took a step back. Because you knew something they didn't, you let the storm roar without attempting to control it. The truth doesn't require you to push it over the finish line, and lies have their expiration dates. It travels by itself, silently accumulating weight until it is unavoidable. And now, without your involvement, Their meticulously constructed story is beginning to fall apart. The folks who formerly accepted their version of events have begun to see flaws in your absence. Their tales no longer fit together. Their actions run counter to the impression they were trying to convey. Their stated innocence is not consistent with the energy they possess. Additionally, because you are no longer available to serve as their easy scapegoat, the focus has returned to them, and they are not managing the limelight effectively. The fact that you didn't just avoid playing their game is what makes it so poetic. The whole playing field was altered by you. The truth is coming to light via the organic course of events, revealing them in ways your words could never. Individuals are making connections on their own. Furthermore, the picture painted by those dots is considerably more repulsive than anything you could have spoken out. You are now a living example of everything they attempted to hide. Their portrayal of you was false, as evidenced by the tranquility you now carry, the glow you've developed, and the life you've established without them. And the sting comes next. They are no longer able to disparage you without reminding everyone that you are still alive, well, and unconcerned. They used to believe that if you destroyed your name, you would cease to exist. Instead, as you get up without doing anything, their own image is eroding. You are the unmistakable proof, the annoying reminder, and the unbearable reality. 14. What you decide not to offer is your new power. You now understand that what you give up doesn't give you power. What you withhold is where it lies. In the past, you contributed generously. Your energy, your responses, your time, and your justifications. You believed that confronting them directly would somehow make them realize your value, and that involvement was a sign of strength. But now you are aware of the reality. You legitimize noise each time you respond to it. You give someone who is determined to misunderstand you authority over your story each time you explain yourself. You have therefore mastered the art of withholding, not out of resentment, but rather out of accuracy. You are aware of your energy's flow. They have no right to the life you're creating since life expands. Because reactions offer them something to manipulate, something to gain an advantage over, and something to feed on, they wanted you to be reactive. They are deprived of the fuel by your silence. They are deprived of significance by your absence. The fact that your constraint isn't passive is what worries me the most. It's intentional. The choice was made out of respect for oneself, not out of fear. You don't have to answer in a way that would hurt them deeply. The self-control to remain silent, to leave without presenting your case, to avoid falling into the trap. They never took that level of strength into consideration. They're seeing it now. Refusing to participate is not a sign of weakness. It's power. It's no longer defense in a game they made up. They can't score on an empty court, and you've completely left the field. You select where the game even takes place, so every unanswered message, disregarded provocation, and instance in which you choose peace over petty conflict serves as a reminder that you are in control. Your greatest weapon today is what you decide not to offer. They know deep down that they can't take something from someone who no longer offers it. Thus that scares them. You have entered a new world. One in which you don't say a thing and your quiet talks loudly. What first appeared to be a retreat was actually a calculated return of your authority. Every silent minute has broken their illusions, broken their power, and shown them the strength they never knew you possessed. This has nothing to do with being unapproachable or uncaring. In a universe that grew on your responses, it's about mastering oneself. Now, they must face the indisputable reality. They can no longer use you for their games, manipulation, or diversions. Your energy is no longer within their reach. Redefining your presence according to your own standards. A power that cannot be seized because it was not granted freely in the first place is demonstrated by every unanswered call, disregarded provocation, and withheld reaction. You changed the rules without telling anyone. They chose to win in ways they cannot see or comprehend, because you have outgrown the conflicts they intended to wage on their territory. Their uncertainty, despair, and frustration are not indications of your weakness. They are the reverberations of a power they failed to recognize. There is more to this silent revolution within of you than just a retreat. It's an ascension, an evolution so deep that you fly higher, unbound, and unstoppable, while they scramble to catch up. Keep in mind that strength isn't always obvious. The ground under people who previously attempted to shatter you can sometimes be shaken by your cool, collected unwillingness to participate. You have already triumphed without a struggle. Now see how the stillness you choose turns into the roar they are unable to stop. Remember to press the subscribe button and join the movement if this message resonated with you and you're prepared to take control of your power like never before. If you find strength in stillness, please like the video. Share your tale or ideas in the comments section below. I want to talk to you. Most importantly, let someone know that they are not alone in their silent ascent by sharing this with them. By working together, we are creating a community of unstoppable fighters who are heard without having to yell. Continue to win, remain silent, and remain strong. May you be blessed.